Welcome to the Default Profitable Podcast. This week, we're going to talk about starting a series of businesses aimed at small business owners. We're going to learn some successes, some failures, and some real life stories from a real business owner. My name is Matt Nettleton, and this week, our guest is Jay Beatty. Jay, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Matt. Glad to be here.
Now, we've known each other for 20 plus years, probably. So what I'd like to start with is, why don't you introduce yourself and your company to everybody listening?
Sure. My name's Jay Beatty. My company is called Velomon. It's a financial services firm, so I specialize in retirement planning and some advanced tax strategies. What I'm trying to do is help people that are approaching or in retirement get the optimum output for the 40 or so years of hard work that they put in.
And so, when did you start your business? Let's start there.
Well, technically, I started in 2004, so I'm about 20 years old now.
All right.
Had a few fits and starts along the way. Did some retooling, but this iteration of the company has been pretty consistent for the last about 9 years, 2015 or so. Yeah.
All right. So, what were you doing before that?
Well, before I started my business, I was kind of, one of those corporate executives that spent some time on the hamster wheel, bopping around from city to city, trying to keep the wheels on the bus. And I had kind of decided it wasn't for me. The company decided it wasn't for me before I got there, which is fine. But I've had a curiosity for quite some time about how money works and about personal finance. I found that in my corporate role, I was in the CEO seat, and people would ask me all the time personal questions about their finances. Hey, should I do this mortgage? Should I start a 529 plan for my kids? Should I this, that, and the other thing? Like, I've got answers about personal finance just because I'm in the big boy seat, and I really didn't. So I did the classic fake it till you make it thing. But when I got kicked out of that seat, I thought, I really want to learn this stuff. I want to know the answers to those things myself. And that kind of started me on a journey that led me to start the business that I've started and that I continue to run today.
So it's interesting that you led with how money works, because that's been a little bit of a theme in the first 80 some episodes of, as a business owner, one of the things that people need to understand is that business math and checkbook math for your home are two different things. So it sounds like you're saying that you started your business, which is business math, because retirement math and exit math is also a different version of financial literacy. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I thought people were asking me very logical questions. How does this mortgage work? Should I be putting more into the 401k plan? Should I roll this old 401k over to just, very logical questions that people run into every day. And I felt like I should have much better answers to those questions than I did. So for me, when I kind of got kicked off the nest, it was a curiosity thing where I wanted to know the right answers to those questions. And so I kind of went out and just started, reading, studying, listening to all kinds of different people and trying to figure out how the money world works on an at-home level. And then I figured out the more I kind of peeled the onion back, I go, oh my gosh, the benefit that I had getting into this business, Matt, is that I didn't come through the traditional channel. So I didn't get my head filled with propaganda first that I had to unlearn before I could learn it the right way. I kind of learned it the right way from the beginning. And because I'm not hitched to a big company, I could develop sort of my own way of thinking, my own worldview with respect to how money works. And that led me down a path that I thought was extremely unique, not the kinds of things that we hear every day. And that's where the business formation came out of it. It's like, oh my gosh, if I've learned this stuff that I didn't know, and I thought I knew, a fair bit about how money works, I need to go out and take this message, to the countryside and help other people avoid some of the bad decisions that I made. So it really, it started out as a curiosity, and it kind of turned into a bit of a crusade for me. And I think that the knowledge and experience that I've gained is unique. I think it's a gift, and I think I have the stewardship responsibility to take it out there and share it with others.
So it's interesting that it started off as a curiosity. Most people, when they start a business, fall into one of two camps, right? Either they're passionate about something and they hope they can get money for it, or they look at the marketplace and see an opportunity and figure they can step in and fill it and walk away with a paycheck. Which I guess you weren't really passionate about as much as you were curious. Did you see the opportunity?
I think the curiosity led to the, oh my gosh, I think I could make money doing this. So for me, it didn't start out maybe so much as a passion. Maybe it was a little bit more financially driven. But the more I learned and the more I shared with people and the more I would get looks from people across the table, oh my gosh, I've never heard that. Nobody's ever told me that. I had no idea you could do that. Then it really became a passion because I knew that not only was I making money, I was changing lives in a pretty dramatic way. So I think, say for me, it was, yeah, it was money first, passion later. But I completely understand other people go the other direction.
Yeah.
People start with high passion first and then figure out how they can make money out of it.
I got to be honest with you. In 88 episodes, I've yet to run into somebody who claims the passion first thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would think more people would, but um,
Well, they get the curiosity piece. Like, I think I can do this. I think I can make money doing this. And then as they dig in, something about it hooks them.
well, that's me to a T. I would say I started out a little mercenary and kind of evolved to where I am now. And I'm at a point in my life where the money is always important, right? But it's not nearly as important as it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's more about the impact I can leave.
Yeah.
That's what drives me. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning.
Yeah. Well, I get that. So you started the business in 2004. And then you said since 2015, for about the last 9 years, it's been pretty much in this iteration. So tell us what was the 2004 to 2015 11 years. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I had a good idea and a good handle on what the market would want, and I thought I had researched it and trial ballooned it pretty well. But as I got into it, what I thought people wanted wasn't necessarily exactly what they wanted, or it wasn't the way they wanted it. So, I had to retool, rethink, maybe put a little bit more emphasis on this area and a little bit less on that, even though my instinct told me that the other way was going to be better for the client. But you've got to adapt to what your client wants and what your client's going to buy. You don't want to go completely off message and just be totally commercial about it. But I think you got to adapt. And it took me a few, maybe I had a little bit more stubbornness than the next guy. It took me a little bit longer to figure out what that right track was.
You think about the stubbornness?
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, you know me too well.
Yeah. So back in 2004, as you were getting ready to start the business, yeah, I mean, you had come out of being a CEO, so you were familiar with the idea of planning and organizing and annual plans. How much of a plan did you have for your business?
Well, I mean, I thought that was an advantage that I had going in. So I do think I thought things through and spreadsheeted out pro formas and did things that from my corporate training that would help me as I started my own business, and they did. But man, look, if you're buying a franchise and they tell you to put two pickles in the hamburger, it's a pretty well known formula. You follow the formula to make money. When you're carving something out on your own, there's no formula. You're inventing the formula as you go. So all the planning that I did, and I think I did probably more than most, in the end didn't really matter that much because I had to keep retooling and making adjustments.
And this is another theme that's come up. And I'm going to repeat back to you what I heard, and then you can tell me whether or not I'm right. What I'm hearing you say is that the plan that you developed didn't have that much value, but the process of planning really helped you.
There you go, Matt. You got away with words. That's very, very well put. Yeah. The process of planning was the value. The plan itself wasn't the value.
Yeah.
But having the process allowed me to make the adaptations and the adjustments
Right.
that eventually made it succeed. I mean, look, there's what's the statistic? 80% of businesses don't make it to 5 years.
Yeah.
I don't think it's because 80% of businesses have bad ideas. I think it's because 80% of businesses don't know how to adapt, don't have the self-awareness to be able to figure out how to make what it is they started out with work.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So that was before you started. Well, as you started it, what things did you discover you didn't know from your corporate career that would have been helpful to know when you were running a small business?
I'd say the number one thing is the value of capital. You start out, you say, well, hey, I got $100 here. I can be profitable with $100. That'll be plenty. And it always takes twice as long and 5 times as much money. So, I think that's probably the other reason that 80% of businesses don't make it to 5 years is just poor capitalization, undercapitalization. So I think you put together the best business plan you can. You absolutely do. And you look at it and you say, okay, it looks like I got a 3-month track to profitability. It's going to take me $18,000 to get there. Double everything and still cross your fingers. That'd be the thing I wish I'd known back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've had to bootstrap this thing in some of the most creative, crazy, ridiculous ways possible until I got over that hump. Because I wasn't prepared for what it was going to take.
You now you can look back and you can smile at what you went through. Could you have avoided it at all, or is that just part of having a business?
I don't know that is completely avoidable, and frankly, I don't know that it would be real healthy if you could avoid it. I think you got to get your nose bloodied a few times. For me, we talked about stubbornness earlier. There's a humility factor there. When somebody has a great idea for a business, and I really thought I did, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that. I'm sure a lot of people think that. Great idea, that's a starting point, man. That is not a shortcut in line to success. And so I think had I not had some of those experiences trying to, I remember taking my Crown Royal cloth bag of poker coins down to Kroger to get the $25 that I needed to pay a bill at one point. That's how bad it got. But had I not had those experiences, I'm not sure I would have been able to develop enough humility to say, you know what, maybe I'm not the smartest guy in the world. Maybe I do need to listen to others a little bit more and be able to do some of that adapting, adjusting, and so forth. So is it avoidable? Probably not. But even if it was, I'm not sure that'd be a good thing or a healthy thing for most business owners. You got to get beat up. You got to pay your dues.
We say that we learn things the hard way, and I am not convinced we learn things any other way.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I mean, it's just like if it doesn't hurt enough, I'm not paying attention. So,
and it also, it tests your mettle. What do I have the fortitude to persevere through versus when am I going to throw the towel in?
right.
There were 100 times I could have thrown the towel in and gone back and gotten a job. I would have been fine, but that's not what rocks my boat, and I would have been miserable. I mean, I chuckle now that I got kicked off the corporate nest, and I did. It was the best thing that ever happened to me because I would have been miserable if I'd spent 40 years in court. That's just me. I'm not saying for the next guy that's not a good thing, but you don't know what you don't know till you know it.
Well, it's funny because the guy that I interviewed in the episode just before this started his business because he got downsized 3 times.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people end up in business because the corporate world just didn't work for them. And it's not bad; it just didn't.
Right. Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's funny. I talk to my adult kids now, and they say, my kids will tell you, Dad, I could never do what you do. It's too risky. And I'm like, what are you talking about? The only risk I've got is that I get my lazy butt out of bed in the morning and go out there and do something industrious. You got to walk into a business that's got corporate muckety mucks that you've never met before who decide your fate every day in board meetings in a inhuman, merciless fashion. That's risk.
Yeah.
What I do is no risk, but it's all what it's what your worldview is.
Yeah.
I don't view what I do as risky at all. I know I've got the fortitude and the energy and the work ethic to go out there and do what it takes to put bread on the table. I couldn't live the other way. But my kids think that I'm risky and that they've got it. They're going down the safe path.
But it's funny because in my family, it's the opposite. My dad thinks I'm a moron that I could, how do you show up to work and you don't know what you're going to make this month? Well, that's what you do. You go and earn it.
Like I heard somebody once say, you probably had 100 people say this before. I wake up every day unemployed. You wake up every day unemployed.
Yep.
What bigger motivator is there than that?
There is none. There is none. So when somebody who is a cog in the big corporate machine comes to you and says, "Hey, Jay, man, I'm thinking about starting my own gig," what's the story that you tell them to discourage them from doing it?
To discourage them, huh?
Or to explain the difference?
Well, in the corporate world, I mean, I was in corporate sales, right? And I got into corporate executive and so forth. But you got a whole team of people with silos of expertise around you that you don't have. And so I guess my discouragement would be try to know what you don't know. If you don't know how to do accounting, if you don't know finance structure, if you don't know legal and liability and how to set up an LLC and how to form your company and how to how to set up an accounting system for it. If you're good at sales and not good at those things, understand that and realize that you're going to have to you got to be ultra self-aware. You got to know what your strengths are and play to them. You got to know what your weaknesses are, and you got to fill them through third parties and through other resources. And so you're not going to just lollygag out there and say, you know what, I got the cure for cancer. I got the greatest idea in the world, and I'm going to put a business together because I got the cure for cancer. I'm going to be immediately successful. It just doesn't work that way. There's so many disciplines to being a business owner that are outside your realm of experience, and they're not things that are extremely difficult or that you can't acquire. But just know that going in. If you don't know how to use Excel in a pretty robust fashion and put a pro forma together for yourself, you're already 3 steps behind before you even hang your shingle out. So just take inventory of what you know and what you don't know, and be sure that you're planning to shore up the things you don't know, through other resources.
And in my experience, you said it takes 5 times as long and 3 times as much money. I think about 1/3 of what you think you do.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of what I'm saying, Matt. I think those of us who decide to scratch our entrepreneurial itch do so because we think we got a good idea. And we get a little punch drunk on that good idea. And we think that that's a shortcut to success. A great idea is a shortcut to success. It's not. A great idea is a great idea that requires all the other infrastructure, all the other disciplines, all the other areas of expertise in order to turn it into a great idea. I mean, you could have the cure for cancer and you could fail at it. That is possible.
Yes.
And so you got to get a dose of humility. You've got to understand what you don't know. And yeah, it's not easy. It's not hard, but it's not easy.
Yes. Yeah. It is demanding. So if 2024 Jay could go back to 2004, sit down next to 2004 Jay the night before you start your business, what's the one thing you would tell 2004 Jay to focus on? You say, hey, listen, it all works out. It's going to be a struggle. You'll make it. But focus on this first because it'll make your life easier. What's the focus on this first thing?
I think for me personally, I was a bit arrogant about my idea. And I think what I neglected to do was bounce that off of other people. And not other people that would say, oh, Jay, that's a great idea. Other people would say, Jay, that's the stupidest idea ever, and here's why. So if I had to go back and talk to 2004 me, I would say, get yourself around people that'll tell you the truth, that have been there and done that, and run your ideas by them, ask them questions, find out the things that you're not going to anticipate that are going to trip you up, and take that guidance, take that input. Don't just throw on the Superman cape and think that because I got a great idea, I'm going to be successful in 3 weeks, because it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Any other tips for somebody that's an aspiring or new business owner?
I think if you've got that itch, Matt, if you've got an idea, if you believe that you've got a better mousetrap, there is so much space out here for good ideas, good people, good businesses. Do it. Jump out of your safety net, out of your comfort zone, whatever you want to call it, and do it. Just think it through. But there's nothing more rewarding in the world than having control. I mean, I tell people one of the biggest benefits of being a business owner is I get to pick my customers. I can't imagine if I were working at McDonald's dealing with some of the yahoos that we see on TikTok videos walking into McDonald's.
Yeah.
And you got to treat them. You got to treat them like the customer's always right. I couldn't do that. So get out there and do it. Just really think it through and really be realistic about yourself, and be sure you have smart, seasoned people that you can bounce things off of.
Yeah, that's not a bad place to end. I think that's a pretty good message. So I think that's a good place to wrap up. Quick 20 minutes. For everybody that's listening, you'll be able to find more information about Jay in the show notes at defaultprofitable.com. And if you're listening, there's 3 ways you can help us. Subscribe wherever you listen, leave a review wherever you listen, and if you hear something interesting in an episode, share it with somebody else. Jay, thanks for being a guest.
Great fun, Matt. Appreciate it.
Yep. And for everybody that's listening now, we'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, keep working and stay profitable.